Greetings, movie fans. We're so thrilled to have you join us for an exciting conversation and the trailer debuts for Welcome to the Blumhouse, featuring 4 original genre thrillers from Amazon Studios and Blumhouse Television. I'm your co-host, Clark Collis from Entertainment Weekly.
And I'm Ryan Bennett from Black Girl Nerds, and we're excited to unveil the full trailers for Black Box, Evil Eye, The Lie, and Nocturne, and meet the new and incredibly diverse group of filmmakers behind these unsettling visions.
But first, let's welcome Jason Blum, a producer who has dominated our nightmares with films like Get Out, The Invisible Man, and Halloween, and Jamie Lee Curtis, film royalty and horror classics such as The Fog, Prom Night, and of course, John Carpenter's original slasher, Halloween.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I know you probably don't know who it is, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret.
Oh,
Hi.
Jamie
I know,
Lee Curtis,
right?
what are you doing here?
Hi, Jason Blum. Hi, Jason Blum. Thanks for inviting.
How are you?
Thanks for inviting me to Welcome to the Blumhouse.
Welcome to the Blumhouse, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Thank you very much. I've, as you know, I've had we had a little bit of a pre-party with the Halloween movie, and I've certainly become very fond of the Blumhouse, and I'm very proud of you and happy. No, I'm serious. I'm very proud of you and happy that you have created this project. And why don't you explain to the people watching a little more about what the project is? Explain.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so this is a series of 8 movies that we did for our friends at Amazon, and they're like all of our Halloween movie and everything else. They're scary and unsettling, and they make you squirm. But what's unique about this group of 8 movies is they're all by underrepresented filmmakers, women, people of color. And we decided to do that specifically because, as you know, our audience is very diverse. The audience for scary movies is very diverse, and actually more women than men.
Mm-hmm.
And so we thought it would make sense to have filmmakers that represented that audience. So they're emerging.
Smart move, Jason Blum.
There we go. Some of them are emerging. They're all underrepresented, and we're really proud of the movies. And the first 4. Come out this October for my favorite month.
Yes, all of our favorite months. It is our month now. We are wedded into the October bliss forever. Let me speak to this because you've brought me in to the Blumhouse family, and you gave me an opportunity to do something that most women in their 60s don't get that opportunity to do, which is represent both an iconic character like Laurie Strode, but represent her in her real place of where she is. And because of it, it allowed a constituency, which is older people in the movie business, an opportunity to shine. And it has just, as you know, catapulted me into a whole new career that I thought was long, long gone. So personally, I want to thank you for it. And I also want to say that for all the people who are watching this, when you get a chance to go to the Blumhouse offices, there's this fantastic thing where it's a wall of photographs of directors, and then there's a mirror or like a reflective surface, and it says, "Imagine you here." And that's what you've offered these young, underrepresented directors, an opportunity to do that. So I would like to hear more about why you felt it was the time and place to bring underrepresented filmmakers into the Blumhouse family.
Yeah, well, I would say say the exact same thing about you. You were the reason that Halloween connected the way that it did, and what I learned from that, besides always work with you, is that one of the unique things about the movie, it was the biggest opening ever for a horror movie with a female lead, which was you. I was going to say a female lead over 40, which was another record that we broke, and it gave me, it made me acutely aware that the audience is underserved, for lack of a better word, for stories starring women, starring people of color, being directed by women, being directed by people of color, and we wanted to kind of continue that tradition with this series of movies.
Well, and for those who are uninitiated here on this, or watching this from wherever you're watching this, or listening, or however people are accessing this content, you know, because of my experience on Halloween, I came home and wrote a horror movie that we're going to make at Blumhouse called Mother Nature, about two women. And you have given me that opportunity to explore that aspect of my life. And again, an opportunity that no one else would have given me. So thank you, Jason Blum. So are there any thematic sort of themes that, did you require a sort of a frame for this project?
We did. We really wanted the movies to be like unsettling or unnerving, scary. You know, that was the framework. And there did seem to be common themes. I don't know if that's a result of the world that we're living in and the artists, you know,
Probably.
Absorbing what's out there. But the stories and the movies center around, you know, unexplored or unknown evils, or things that are evil without an explanation. Always, and this is true of many of our movies, because the thing that's most sacred to everyone is their family. So when the family is threatened, that's the scariest thing of all. So we'll see a lot of that. We'll see a lot of questioning, which is another common theme in scary movies, as you know, is like, is this person crazy or not?
Mm-hmm.
Usually they're not crazy and everybody else is. And finally, not just attacks on the family, but interpersonal relationships between the family and those relationships
Mm-hmm.
going wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of the themes that we see in the first series of movies.
Why do you think the, you know, horror resurgence, this wave of appreciation for the art of the movies and the visceral experience of these horror movies, that it is such a wave of interest and obviously good business? What do you think is the sort of specific factor that has made that, or do you have a sense of that?
Yeah, I do. You know, it's funny. For whatever reason, I've seen, I you know, since Paranormal Activity, when the world gets particularly crazy or threatening, there's more of an interest in horror and in horror movies. And my theory, I don't know why that is, but my theory is that if you can experience something scary that's controllable, what you're watching on your television set, you can control it. You can turn it off. You can now pause it and start it later. And you know it's make-believe, you know it's a story. And for some reason, I don't have the answer to this, people find comfort in seeing scary things that are controllable, mm-hmm. versus a world which is not controllable. And somehow it gives you a brief respite from all the things out there that are going on that feel threatening, to be able to see something on TV that you know you have total control over. And for some reason that's a cathartic experience for people, which I understand.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes sense. You've articulated that beautifully. What have you been watching? Any like old school? Are you old school? Are you new school? Did you watch like one of my mother's best worst movies, which was called The Night of the Lepus, which was, for the uninitiated, it is a horror movie about giant bunny rabbits. It is called The Night of the Lepus, and I think it is in that rating of like worst movies ever made. It's up there. It's worth seeing, by the way.
I've missed that one. I'll have to add that to my list. My list does include, I've been catching up on things. Well, the new thing I'm watching is The Vow. Have you seen The Vow? It's that documentary.
No, I've been told by everybody.
Oh my, talk about scary. It's insane. I mean, it's number, I've been really into that. But I have watched, so I will put that, I've been watching things that, over the years, people have told me to watch, and I'm always kind of trying to watch new things to stay current, and I never, but COVID has given me time to go back. And one thing which I'm embarrassed to say, which I've never seen, is The Wire. And everyone's is the best. So I'm in season 3, episode 11 of The Wire. I've been working my way through The Wire, and it's been kind of amazing. Also, both of those shows are really, I'm just exactly like the audience, like darkly themed, scary, and all sorts of things like that. But for some reason, I find comfort in watching both of them. So that's my current that's on my current list.
It's your current obsession. Well,
yeah.
what I want you to do.
What about you? What are you watching?
Christopher and I have been watching a masterpiece, like a one of those mystery shows. It's called Endeavor. It's a English TV show set in the 60s. Crime solving. It's interesting, beautifully made, exquisitely acted, and the stories are told really, really well. So we're enjoying that. But he's as you know, he's fishing. And I'm not. But what I am, here's what I want to catch. I know, I just am so good at this. What I would actually like to catch are these young filmmakers. Really what I want to hear from are these young filmmakers that you have brought together for this series. And I think enough about me and you, and I think you need to now be talking to these young filmmakers. So how do we do that? Universe.
Well, I agree with you. I agree with you. Thank you so much for coming.
I'm very happy to be here.
Asking some questions and letting me ask you some questions too, and helping us launch Welcome to the Blumhouse. So we're gonna go to Clark and Ryan, and Clark and Ryan are going to start, I think, with sharing the trailers for Black Box, Evil Eye, The Lie, and Nocturne. Those are the 4 titles of the 4 movies. And once after they show the trailers, then we're finally going to get to meet our filmmakers, and off we go. So I will see you very soon, and much love, and thanks again.
Bye, everybody.
Kicking things off is the world premiere of the trailer for Black Box, a mind-bending sci-fi thriller starring Emmy Award nominee Mamadou Athie and Felicia Rashad. We'll be back with writer-director Emmanuel Osei Kufor on the other side.
Who's there?
You need breakfast.
I'm fine.
I wasn't asking.
Nolan Wright, involved in a car accident, resulting in the death of his wife.
Is there anyone else who can pick you up?
He's just running a little late today.
And severe memory loss.
If this happens again, we're gonna have to notify child services.
I believe that I can reverse your condition.
We should give it a shot, right?
Come with me, please. We call this headset the Black Box. An immersive virtual pathway to your memories. I like to begin with something I call the safe room. When you push the crown of the watch, you will be in your subconscious. Are you ready?
Rachel. What the hell was in there?
It's your brain trying to protect you from your trauma.
Did things go well with Dr. Brooks today?
I saw my wedding.
That's progress right there.
If that thing shows up again, you just say to yourself, I run my mind, it does not run me.
I run my mind, it doesn't run me. I run my mind. It doesn't run me.
Patients are often surprised by what they remember.
Did Rachel and I live in an apartment?
I don't think so.
The place was really familiar.
You're getting close. Stay with this.
Did we ever fight?
It's not what you think. You would never hurt Rachel.
What's going on?
We're close. I can sense it.
You just need to remember who you are.
I run my mind. It doesn't run me.
Emmanuel, it's so nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
The trailer, the project is such a mind race for me. Like my mind is just racing. Let's start with, where did the idea of a black box come from?
So it was actually a concept that was formed by the original writer, Stephen Herman. So the black box is a device, as you can probably tell from the trailer, it's a device that allows Nolan or any patient to relive their memories firsthand through the combination of virtual reality and hypnosis. And so through the black box, the goal of the black box is to allow somebody with amnesia or memory loss of some sort to repiece the missing puzzles in their mind and essentially regain their memory and get whole again.
And let's talk about some of this amazing cast you got here, starting with Mamadou as Nolan. What was it like working with him on set?
Yeah, so Mamadou, I always wanted him to play the role of Nolan from the minute I finished writing the script. I first discovered him in the Facebook Watch show, Sorry for Your Loss. And I think that there was something magnetic about his presence on screen. I started to realize that I really do believe that it's because he's comfortable in silence. There's always like some kind of inner life happening for him on screen that I thought would really lend itself well to Black Box and Nolan's, constant internal struggle, because he just doesn't feel comfortable in any of the spaces or any of the relationships that he's in. So I really felt that would really lend itself well to Black Box. As far as like me and him working together as collaborators, we worked together for about 2 or 3 months after he was hired, and we're pretty microscopic. Like every single scene, we were trying to figure out like what is the subtext, and we were trying to land at like what is his overall emotional journey and his arc through this film. And I think he is the anchor for this film. He is, he adds truth. He adds a sense of groundedness that really permeates every single other cast member in this film, and really makes this thriller, it's a really unsettling thriller, but at the same time, he adds like a believability and a slice of life quality that I think really makes this film different and makes it stand out. And he's known for being like pretty sensitive and pretty subtle and pretty like quiet as an actor, from like Uncorked to the Front Runner to Sorry for Your Loss. But I think people will be really, really, really surprised by just how powerful and how much range he has. I mean, from your smile, I know you could tell what I'm talking about.
Yeah. You will feel that range. Yeah, from the you don't feel it from the trailer. Yeah.
He's an incredible actor, and so I feel lucky to have had him as a collaborator.
And also about Nolan and Ava, they had a secret handshake in this that was very intricate. This is a very intricate handshake in here. And I wonder, were you giving us your secret handshake, or how did you guys come up with that little tidbit? Without, I mean, we have to be careful of spoilers, but I just that was like one of my favorite moments.
Yeah. I mean, I also wanted to speak on Amanda as well. Amanda, who plays Ava. Amanda, it was really, really tough finding the right actress to play Ava. We really wanted her to be precocious, because she's, as you can see from the trailer, she's the mother of the house, as Nolan is trying to figure out who he is as a father and take care of people. And so she, people always tell you to avoid, doing films where you have to heavily rely on a kid. But Amanda was incredible because she actually, you could talk to her like she was an adult. Like she was always on. In many ways, she, kept everybody on their feet, everybody on their toes, including Miss Rashad and Mamadou. And, I think it was incredible. In terms of the handshake though, I'm a huge NBA fan, and so I was always I was always a fan of LeBron's handshakes and the things he does with Dwayne Wade and Kyrie. And so it's kind of like a combination of that, so yeah.
You gotta bring a little NBA to the thriller. I love it. That's so cool. But speaking of amazing on camera though, you brought up a little bit Felicia Rashad, veteran actor. We're so used to seeing her in this motherly, nurturing role, but without giving too much away, there's a twist. So tell us about working with her on set. What was that like?
Miss Rashad, I feel really lucky and really humbled that she even agreed to do this film. I met her for the very first time about 2 years ago as a fan at the Austin Television Festival. And I just asked her a question about, doing like her interest in doing films with Houston-born filmmakers, because we're both from Houston, both Ms. Rashad and myself. And little did I know that a year later, I would get a chance to actually ask her to be in my first feature. And so for her to accept the role and, be moved by the story was like incredibly humbling. I remember like the first time I met her, like I over-prepared, almost like I was reading the script, and I was just like, I was floored by how humble and how kind and how collaborative she was as just a person, and she, she's Miss Rashad, so she's effortless in front of the camera, and she really, she stuns you when you get back to the editing room. You don't realize the magic you see on screen until you get back into the editing room. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, you did. You gave me more too, because I wanted to kind of ink as much detail as I wanted, because just love watching her on screen and just seeing this trailer. This is going to be amazing, and I can't wait to check out the full feature. I can't wait for the fans, the viewers to check it out. As we wrap, though, I want to ask you, what has been your biggest inspiration for this film, and what do you want people to take away?
So part of the reason I did this project is because, when I read Stephen Herman's early draft of this film, I was drawn to the idea of a device that could kind of help you bring back your memory. I was drawn to Nolan's devotion to his daughter. But I thought there was an opportunity to really explore the idea of, a flawed man, a flawed father that gets a second chance to be a good one, and something about that was really powerful to me. And there was something powerful about the fact that what if a child is the one that, inspires that change and inspires somebody to confront their biggest mistakes and become a better person? It's something that I've seen, happen with loved ones and friends as they become parents themselves. And so, I'm not a parent yet, but, it's just something I was really curious about. And I think that's what people are that's the heart of the film. And I think that's what's really going to get people to lean in.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Emmanuel. Like I said, I can't wait to check it out. It was amazing talking to you. And for viewers out there, this film is going to premiere on Amazon Prime October 6th.
Next up is The Lie, a gripping mystery about the lengths parents will go in order to protect their child, starring Mireille Enos, Peter Sarsgaard, and Joey King. We'll introduce writer-director Veena Sud following the trailer.
Hey, bet they thought they were gonna get away with this, huh?
Excuse me?
Brittany and Kayla didn't make it to the dance camp. Didn't the school call you?
No, Kayla's sick. I kept her home this weekend.
I was sure they were doing this together, there with their secret plans.
No way.
What?
Dad, pull over, it's Britt. What are you doing here? I'm going to that stupid ballet thing, duh.
You think I could talk to Kayla?
Her dad took her to the doctor.
Can she call me when she's back?
Of course. You need to tell her dad that you don't know where she is.
No. Hey, what happened to your face? Looks like you got hit. Is there a bathroom nearby? Can we pull over now?
I'm scared. She can't be trusted to talk to Brittany's dad.
Kayla! Get down! Where's your friend? Oh. Whatever this game is that you were playing, it's over. Where's Brittany? Get off me!
Dad, get out of here!
I'm going to the police.
How do you want to do something really bad? I pushed her. She fell.
That's second-degree murder.
There's something wrong with her.
She was such a happy little girl.
Kayla's friend, her father came by the house acting strange.
Did Brittany ever talk about her father?
She told me that he
hits her.
You ever lose your temper with your kid?
Who told you this? Does he really hit her?
No. Guess I learned from the best.
Whatever you want to believe, she didn't mean it.
What? Don't look at me like that.
Vina, so nice to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. I loved The Lie so much. I mean, when I say I loved it, I guess I felt like it was something tightening around my neck for 90 minutes, but in a great and enjoyable way. By which I mean that the characters, you've got these characters that struggle and struggle, and the more they struggle, the worse things seem to get. Really. What attracted you to the material? How did you get involved in the project?
I was absolutely fascinated by the original German film, We Are Monsters, that my producer, Alex Madigan, had the rights to remake in the US. And Alex and I had been looking to do something together. She is an incredible producer of a lot of female talent, including Deborah Granick. And so it was, with great enthusiasm when she said, I have this project about two parents protecting a child who may have killed her best friend. Would you look at it? And I said, absolutely. And really blown away by Sebastian Coe's version, the original version of the story. I did something different with it because I needed to, obviously put my own imprint on it. I was really fascinated by, as a parent, what I would do in a similar situation were my child to do something as drastic and extreme. And so it's a morality tale. It's it's a little bit like the Swedish film about the father who abandons his family during an avalanche.
Right.
What would you do if your child killed her best friend?
Yeah, and it's as I said, it's really like I spent so many points being like, oh, please don't do that. I mean, no, I don't mean it was predictable, but like someone's presented with a choice, and I'm like, oh, please don't. Oh, okay, you went and did it. And it was just fantastic. You've got this great. I mean, actually, the cast as a whole is fantastic. I don't want to. You've got these great supporting actors in supporting roles, but it is essentially the story of this family, of this fractured nuclear family. You've got these great three actors. What was it like working with them?
Working with Mireille Enos and Peter Sarsgaard was such a gift. We had worked before, obviously, on The Killing, and Mireille was my lead, Detective Sarah Linden, on the show. And so she and I, and me especially, were always looking forward to another opportunity to do another project together. It was such a pleasure to do this because I was on set and in the trenches directing versus showrunning. And Mireille and Peter was on season 3 of The Killing, and they had this extraordinary two-hander episode where he is about to be executed. He's on death row. His character, Mireille, is trying to get the truth from him about a crime that she believes he's actually innocent of. And so they spend the course of a day up to the point of execution talking. And even though they're enemies in the episode, it was this extraordinary energy between them and charisma, and they both said, let's do a love story next time. And so in many ways, The Lie is the love story of a family, on the skids and in the worst situation imaginable. Joey King was an incredible discovery for me, to see this young, vivacious, charismatic, sweet young girl step into the shoes of a deeply troubled teenager who over time has no remorse is a huge challenge, because the audience has to feel and understand to some degree what this teenager is going through. And Joey was truly magnificent in being able to give so much humanity to the character of Kayla, a girl who essentially is a murderer.
Because you're right, because the character is almost like having a bomb in your house when you don't know what, or even like a feral cat or something. From the moment that she announces what she's done, it's almost like she has to be watched like 24 hours a day for fear of I mean, no one really knows what she's going to do. It's interesting because it is a film with a lot of warmth. It doesn't seem like it's going to be at the start, and then in the course of proceedings, the family dynamic kind of changes as it goes on. But you said it in literally a lot of scenes in what looks like an absolutely freezing cold situation. There's scenes of your cast like tromping through the snow and in water. Was that like, were they reluctant to do too many takes for that, or what was that like?
Never reluctant. An incredible cast who was willing to, in literally record-breaking freezing temperatures in Toronto, we got to -40 at -40 Fahrenheit and Celsius, which apparently becomes the same thing when you're that low. We were in the coldest winter, I think, in Toronto's recent history. Peter Sarsgaard had to jump into a fast-flowing Arctic river and tromp around that, for a bit. And not only was it a freezing cold river in Arctic type conditions, but there was off screen a 50-foot waterfall, that, was dangerously and terrifyingly too close for my comfort. It was obviously scattered. We had stunts, we had safeties, but safety is a very important thing for me as a director, to make sure my cast can play and feel very secure. So we had a lot of safety at the mouth of that waterfall for him. And he kept jumping in. He had no qualms. He's done water work before, and he also knew, kind of how to, if things were getting too frigid, we had a warming tent, we had all of that. But every single one of our cast, they were incredible troopers. And in the night work too, especially towards the end of the film, the amount of rolling in subarctic snow conditions was one of the biggest challenges for me. And I've shot 4 years in nonstop rain in Vancouver, so this was the biggest challenge for sure.
And obviously we don't want to give too much of the film away, but do you what do you hope audiences feel like after watching this film? Or are there any lessons you hope they take away from it?
More feelings, more than anything else. I'm very curious. Again, what drew me to the film was the question of what I would do were that my child, and who am I ultimately when no one's looking? Who are we all ultimately, morally, when the things that we love the most are threatened? Also, the other sub-theme to The Lie is the assumption of criminality and or innocence based on race. So the victim, the child who is murdered by Kayla, is Pakistani, her best friend, and the father keeps coming by the house of the family because he starts to suspect that they know something about the disappearance of his daughter. And the way the authorities and the world around reacts to race in this particular situation is definitely timely and something that is worth discussion, continuing discussion.
Well, Veena, thank you so much for taking part in this panel. I can't recommend The Lie enough. You will lose 6 pounds of sweat just watching it, no matter how cold it looks on the screen. So thank you so much for taking part. We'll see more from The Lie when it hits Amazon Prime on October 6th.
Let's get our first look now at the trailer for Evil Eye, a psychological thriller about a mother and daughter who are forced to confront dark family secrets and a terrifying supernatural force. And we have a chat with directors Elon and Rajiv Dasani.
Hey.
Hey.
Have we met?
Wow, use that line a lot?
I'm Sandeep.
Pallavi.
Beautiful name.
Thank you. Hi, Ma. I've met someone.
Balu, this is such good news. I've been praying for a good man for you. Can you give me his date of birth?
You're not checking our horoscopes.
Talk to your daughter.
Astrology is unscientific nonsense.
Are you wearing a bracelet?
Yes.
Good. It will protect you, darling. If you're not careful, bad things could happen.
So, tell me about your last relationship.
She wasn't who I thought she was.
What does that mean?
She tried to kill herself.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean
It's okay.
He's rich, cute, and good with babies.
No wonder we've hardly seen you this last month. Is your mom happy?
I thought she was.
I don't want you to fall in love with the wrong man.
Why can't you just be happy for me?
Palu, don't take it to heart. Your mother was in a very bad relationship.
How bad?
He was dangerous. She never really recovered.
I don't think he ever went away. He is Sandeep. Sandeep is him. I just have to warn her.
Can we please go to a doctor?
Leave before it's too late.
You sound like you believe what you're saying.
Let us help you. For your own good.
She's cursed. I have to save her.
This is madness.
I pray that my daughter be spared. Ma, you need help.
I'm trying to save your life, Balu.
See, I knew if you just met him in person, everything would be fine.
Hi, Elon. Hi, Rajiv.
Hi there. Nice to meet you. Hello.
Nice to meet you guys.
You too.
Thank you guys for joining us. Before we get started, though, I'm really in need of like a little eye pendant to go on my bracelet. You guys know where I can find one of those at? I feel like I kind of need that now.
Yeah, there's all kinds of places. I mean, I know in New Orleans where we shot, they were everywhere. They were all over the quarter, and we definitely got some, and we had them with us the entire time. So.
But it's not only the jewelry that I love about this film. It's so cool, the diversity that is put in Evil Eye. I want to talk a little bit about the way you guys chose the moments where you would add in the Indian culture, whether it was clothing, whether it was location, and why was that so important for you guys?
It's important to us because I think that because half the story is set in India, we wanted to make sure to tell a story that was authentic to our experience, because we grew up in America, but our parents were in India. And I think one of the things about it is that like really like the story of a mom trying to set up their daughter to be married takes a very specific context within this kind of film. And I think it really it's a story that they wouldn't be told in the same way with white leads or with Mexican leads, you know what I mean? Like very Indian specific. And I think it also influenced the way that the mom is obsessed with astrology, the way that she prays to the temple, the way that even the evil eye itself means more. It's not just a trinket. She really believes in this mythology and the reincarnation. Really
absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, it was such a treat to watch that, and I just love like the cinematography, everything, which is beautiful. Let's talk about, because we kind of touched on a little bit the relationships. What do you guys want viewers to take away about love and relationships? Because I was learning so much. There were so many little nuggets in there. What did you guys want viewers to take away about that?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think it's like first I would say that that a lot of it has to do with looking deeper, because I think one of the messages of the film is that on the surface, Sandeep, our villain, so to speak, is this perfect guy. He's charming, he's lovable, he's rich, he's got this, he dresses well. Like the mom's point to the daughter is that look deeper. Like don't just look at the surface, but who is he in his soul? Do you actually love the person, or is it just the idea of the person? And that's like a big, thematic, is that the mom, even the mom went for this flashy guy in her youth who ended up to finding the love of her life, her husband, who is this kind, gentle, wonderful man. Well, but then also say that in terms of love, that a part of this is that it's a story about sort of love between people, but it's also a story about self-love, how you can't really love someone else until you love yourself. And this is something that the mom really has to learn. Is part of why she has this relationship with her daughter that is contentious, because she's still sort of carrying this past trauma, and they can't fix their relationship, and not just past trauma, but like past blame for her actions. Right. The mom has to basically find that self. Until she forgives herself, she can't connect with her daughter, and she can't save her. So this was a very important theme, to us, to do both sort of love of others and self-love. Mm-hmm.
And speaking of that mother-daughter relationship, it also teaches you have to listen to your mother's intuition sometimes. It's a very, it's a very important, it's a very important thing. But speaking of like Usa and Sarita, who wonderfully brought this character to life, what was she was very into like the superstitions and karma. Are you guys very superstitious? Like, do you want to warn us about any superstitions you want to warn us about?
Well, it's funny. I am very superstitious. I must admit, I knock on wood. I don't sit on row 13 of an airplane. Our mom is very into astrology, and I would say our mom's takeaway on watching this movie was, oh yeah, so moms are always right. Okay, good to know. It's which we and by the way, every time we have dated someone or something new, her first question is always, so what day were they born and what time were they born and exactly when or exactly where, and let me check their charts to make sure that you guys are compatible. Yeah. But one thing I wanted to say as well is that I think one of the things about it is that we love that we use this Indian concept of reincarnation, but used in a very relatable way, because it's a very close to our like upbringing and our culture. But I think using it in this kind of American horror context, really, like, we love the balance. And honestly, we have to give a lot of credit to the writer, Madhuri Shekhar. It was really her play that kind of found this perfect balance between them, and we just thought it was wonderful.
And lastly, as we kind of wrap up here, I can't imagine having to direct the movie with my sister. So I want to know, like, we wouldn't make it. Like, you guys would get the very intro of the film and then cut, just go to black. So I want to know how you guys, how was that working together? What were the challenges? Just give us all the scoop you can about working together as brothers on this project.
So at a very initial stage, we had to figure out first who was going to say action. And at first we tried doing it like take by take, and that did not work at all. So then we did scene by scene. So we did scene by scene. Okay, I'll take this scene, you take that scene. And that seemed to work well, which is good. But I have to say, I think the real benefit to it was that it was wonderful to have someone whose taste I trust completely to basically always run any concept by. And honestly, we often disagreed. Oftentimes we didn't have the same idea about something, but what we found is we would test each other. We would say, okay, explain why you believe this is the right shot or this is the right moment. Yeah. And then we would almost always find, oh wait, now I understand what's the best version of the scene and what's the best direction to give. And that was really, really amazing. That said, we definitely would have fights, but we would just do the fights in private. I mean, literally, crew would step into a room, like, they're like, where are they going? It's like, we just need a minute. Yeah, exactly.
All right, I said that was the last question, but I got one more for you guys, because this is a scene that really stuck out for me, and I promise not to give out any spoilers. There was an epic kitchen scene, and I just want to know how long it took to shot that. Like, I'm just thinking, like, the different camera angles, all that kind of stuff. How was that process?
That was it took an entire day, and we also had a pre-day of stunt work, basically, to kind of work out the kinks of how we would do it. So it was a day of the dramatic shooting, and then the fight scene was its own day. So that was something where, to get all of the effects and the water work and the blood, and we had to and then we had choreographed that on a previous day with our stunt coordinator, Mike, our coordinator Mike Yan was absolutely amazing, and he did a previs of it. But I have to say, it was a wild one because the actors really had not done that much action, and so they were loving, like, swinging knives and actually what's funny is we walked into that kitchen when we were scouting, and we saw that sink in the middle of the island, and our first thought, that is a perfect sink to drown someone in. Perfect. So it's
something like a true thriller director.
Exactly. Well, and we love the fact that because it's all white, we're like, oh, blood will show up really well on the kitchen. It's great. Yeah. Exactly. So
just not a beautiful kitchen, but I love the way you guys went with this. I would just not a beautiful kitchen.
Thank you so much.
Well, Elad, Rajiv, thank you so much. This has been so much fun. I really appreciate you guys joining me.
Thank you.
And you guys can check out the premiere. Oh, there you go. You guys can check out the premiere of Evil Eye on Amazon Prime, October 13th.
Our final film in the Welcome to the Blumhouse series is Nocturne, an unsettling tale of sinister supernatural forces and sibling rivalry set at a prestigious arts academy. Let's watch the trailer now, and then we'll have a chat with writer-director Zoo Quirk.
We heard your news. Juilliard, congrats, that's incredible.
You're thinking of my sister B. She's going to Juilliard next year.
What makes Vivian the star?
Jules, I'll always be there for you.
And you, whatever you are.
What if I could be more? What if I could be great? All I need is a chance to prove myself.
Moira Wilson was one of the finest musicians ever to grace this academy. We have decided to rerun the senior concerto competition in her memory.
I stole Moira's theory book.
She carved symbols all over the wall and threw herself out a third-floor window.
She was brilliant. The competition is a big opportunity. I have to beat her. Invocation. Moira's theory book. I've been reading it, studying it. Assurance. It's like it's talking to me. It's taking control. Triumph. You stole my piece. I knew you were jealous. Everybody else does too. Something's up with you, Jules. I won't be there to pick up the pieces.
Music is a blood sport. If you really want that spotlight, you wouldn't let anything get in your way. Not even your sister.
What if I could be more? What if I could be great?
It's my great pleasure to say that I've been joined by the writer-director of Nocturne, Zu Quirk. Zu, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for the nightmares that your film's going to give me.
I hope not. I hope not.
It is this film about two sisters who you sense, used to be very close. They're both studying classical music at a performing arts academy. They become, rivals in the course of the film. But what's interesting is that I wanted to talk about the casting of the two female leads, really, because they act very differently and they don't necessarily look that similar and yet seem quite believable as sisters, which is not that unusual in the real world. But I was wondering, what your thinking was with regards to that and casting. Was it hard to cast? I imagine you had like 100 chemistry casting sessions or whatever.
We definitely had plenty of those, yeah. So the main roles in the movie, Juliet and V, this pair of twins, fraternal twins, not identical, who kind of form the centerpiece of the movie and the emotional core. And their relationship was always so important to the film, feeling like it had that center, that very human center, which I think all good psychodrama and psychological thrillers have. And in the movie, they're played by Sydney Sweeney and Madison Eisman. And yes, we had a lot of chemistry castings. It was really important to us that we find not only two actors who could really get into the slightly complex psychology of these two different characters, but who felt like they'd known each other for years, who felt like they had that history together, that they were the same blood. And as soon as Sydney and Madison got into the room together and we saw them, we ran through some of the most heartbreaking scenes in the movie with them. It was clear that they just pinged off each other so well and they just felt like they had this connection. And we later found out that in fact, Sydney and Madison had gone to high school together and had known each other for years. So I don't know how much of that chemistry was natural and how much of it was just them being fantastic actors, which they are, but it really comes through in the movie and they really sell that relationship, I think.
I thought that's a great story, but I thought you were going to say they discovered that they were actually sisters and didn't realize it until you brought them together.
Yeah, long lost twins.
Yes. One of the interesting things I found about the movie is that I think somebody else, a different director, might have put wall-to-wall classical music in, but I found it was quite interesting and worked really well. Well, perhaps you could talk about the music, because I was so fixated by the visuals, I wasn't paying perhaps as much attention as I should. But there seemed to be a lot more sort of like a sort of synth ambient feel to it.
Yes, so one of the central kind of dichotomies in the narrative is this idea of young people who traditionally wouldn't listen to classical music, or at least in our society wouldn't, have dedicated their lives to this very ancient and archaic discipline. And I wanted to explore that dichotomy in the soundscape of the movie. It was, of course, an option to go for classical across the board, but I thought it would be more interesting if we contrasted the classical parts of the movie with a more synthy soundtrack. And our composer, Elizabeth Bernholtz, is this incredible electronic musician that I begged to be involved with the project, and she very kindly agreed. And I think what she came out with, it feels like the devil is in the room. She really comes out with some amazing stuff. I think it works really well.
And this was you've directed a lot of theatre, you worked on short films. This is your first feature. What was the most surprising thing about the experience? Was there anything about it that you were like, oh, this is why directors sit down a lot, or whatever?
Why they sit down a lot? Certainly the director's chair saw a lot of use throughout our weeks of filming. I think when you're shooting a movie, it's just the constant problem solving you have on set. You prepare and you prep and you come up with your shot lists, and you do as much work as possible before the day, and then you get onto set and you realize that half your shots aren't going to work, or you're not going to have time for this, or that setup isn't possible on the current timeline. So you have to constantly be looking for ways around that. And I think that's where a lot of the stress of a shoot comes from. I think it's where a lot of the joy of a shoot comes from. And it was a great experience to have.
And it's a very original film, but it is in that tradition, if you don't mind me saying, of people becoming, especially like artists or craftsmen of some, particularly artists, becoming obsessed, and there being a supernatural element. Did you go back and look at any sort of previous films before you made this?
Yeah, of course, we had our influences. I'm very into the work of Satoshi Kon, films like Perfect Blue. Aronofsky's Black Swan is a huge influence that lots of people will see in the movie. Persona, Through a Glass Darkly, Repulsion, great old classics like that. I think obsession is something that has been explored a lot in cinema, and it's something that people come back to time and again, because at the end of the day, it's a very easy and very human feeling to get drawn into this whirlpool, especially if you're an artist. And that's kind of what Nocturne is about. It's about the sacrifices and the obsession that's required in order to achieve artistic greatness. Yeah.
Well, I actually went to, you may be familiar with the term, like a specialist music school in the UK, and half of the kids, half the kids there were, grade 8 pianists when they were 7 or possibly younger. I was not part of the musical fraternity. My violin teacher begged me to stop playing the violin when I was about 11 years old. But I thought you very brilliantly captured that, the sort of the sense that they're almost like sportsmen in a strange way. It is like, or it's almost like a separate life that these people, because no one else quite understands the life that they have, that sort of forms the bonds that it really makes them very close. I mean, what was your background with this? Do you play an instrument at all, or?
I do. I grew up playing violin quite competitively. I didn't go into classical music, but I had a lot of friends, formative friends when I was a teenager who did. And so I kind of got to see firsthand how they had decided, many of them at a very young age, that they wanted to dedicate themselves to this pursuit, which I found fascinating at the time. I interviewed as well several pupils at these specialist music schools, particularly in the UK, because we have a very specific music school culture there as well. And I was surprised to learn that a lot of them had decided at as early as 4 or 5 that they were going to pursue this career, even when their parents didn't push them in that direction. And I found that very fascinating, which is why in the movie, the parents are not necessarily the most supportive or understanding. They represent that kind of confused or not quite in touch section of society that doesn't know about this world and doesn't really connect to it in the same way.
Zoo, thank you so much for talking to me. It's been a huge pleasure, and thank you again for Nocturne, which apart from anything else really validated my decision to put the violin down when I was 11 years old. Nocturne will debut on Amazon Prime on October 13th. So that's a wrap on the Welcome to the Blumhouse trailer event. Thanks so much, everyone, for introducing us to your fantastic films.
We're so excited to see these films come October on Amazon Prime. And we want to hear what you think of the trailers. So share your reaction with the hashtag Welcome to the Blumhouse.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.